Hiya folks, welcome to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. This is a one-off video, just as a wee break in between the play along tutorial series stuff that I've been doing. I've been thinking about minimalism in the game for the start of the game for a while. It's something that I was inspired to when I got a map kind of like this one, but with a peninsula even smaller, and I was like, can I fit a city on there and start making profit? Like how little can I get away with building before I can start making profit, before I can start affording like bridges over to the other islands and things like that. And it kind of morphed to me thinking about the kind of natural progression of the start of a realistic mode game. You start with 1.4 million and you spend a whole bunch of that money building your starter city and getting your citizens. You spend a bit more money setting up an industry area, which allows you to start making money, and then finally your money starts going up. So there's like a, whatever the opposite of a peak is in your cash, available cash, it goes down and down and down, and then suddenly there's a turning point and you're going up again. And I was wondering, what's the highest amount of money we can have at that turning point? How little money can we spend before we start making money and covering all of our costs and fueling all of our future expansion via profits rather than starting funds? Or another way to look at it, what's the minimum amount of starting roubles that we could have gotten away with? So that's what this video is going to be about. I've taken a couple of cracks at it. My previous attempt, I made a few big mistakes which were a bit more expensive, but I didn't go below a million. I didn't even go below 1.1 million. I think I would have gone down to maybe $1,050,000 by the time I'd corrected all the mistakes and started making profit. I have a feeling that we can get it even like 1.15 or 1.2 million remaining by the time we start making profit. But yeah, let me do some just basic construction setups, and I'll come back and show you kind of how I'm saving money in that progress. Yeah, basic construction setup, you all know the score there. And yeah, in keeping with the goal of minimal costs, I'm going to be buying the cheapest possible of each vehicle, and I'm only going to be buying one of each. So one V3S cistern, yeah, there we go. I've only built 4 of the 7 free construction offices because I'm not going to need that many. I'm not buying lots of stuff, right? So this is going to be one for cargo vehicles. I'm going to grab, there's only one choice for concrete mixer. I'll take the cheapest dumper. Will I? Yeah. No, I'm not actually going to take the cheapest dumper. I'm going to take one of the SKDs because it's only $1,000 more expensive than the V3S. It takes proportionately more materials. So I think having it being useful in the future for like maybe our heating plant is probably a better idea than spending less money but for a worse ratio of money to carrying capacity. The purchase cost also affects the maintenance costs as well, so that ratio is going to continue to be relevant. Open hull. This one I'm just going to buy the FZK because it's only $1,000. I have no problem just sitting and waiting for that to deliver all the stuff over time. The last thing is we're going to need a covered hull. Just a tiny one will do. We might need to do a bit of juggling of covered hulls later on when we get our shop and stuff, but that's fine for now. That's that one construction office. This can build anything. Second construction office. Well, first of all, this is going to have no auto search and it's going to pick up stuff from there, but the only thing that's going to be in here, one V3S crane, the cheapest crane, and one Trabi. And I'll come back and explain that in a second. The next one, but the only thing that's going to be in here is one of the cheapest excavators. And yeah, that's why I wanted to come back to this. So I bought an excavator and I bought a crane, right? If we're doing absolute minimalism, why would I do that, right? Because you can build stuff with workers, you don't need an excavator. You can build stuff with workers and you don't need a crane. But one of the other things I want to do is a kind of complementary goal. I want to make sure that we use as few foreign workers as humanly possible. 9 rubles and $12 right now to buy a workday, and that adds up really fast. And having this crane means that every foreign worker that we use, as long as the work they do is boosted by the crane, it effectively means they can deliver 5.5 work days. So this crane is going to pay for itself, right? And the same for this excavator, right? It's going to use a little bit of fuel. The groundworks phase of all these buildings is going to be so much cheaper if we're using a little bit of fuel in an excavator compared to hundreds and hundreds of work days of foreign labour. So that's the reason for that. And then again, the reason I only bought one of each is because I don't need more than that. We're absolutely going to be sacrificing game pace for in-game value. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Just to absolutely scrimp and save, I'm going to put this down to like 10%, and that way we won't buy any more fuel than we absolutely need. That should be us ready to start building stuff. Okay, time to start planning our initial city. As you can imagine, we're going with the absolute bare minimum of people capacity. We're going with the absolute smallest buildings we can get away with. Okay, time to design the city. This is the second attempt at it. My first attempt, we were just one notch too close to the border, and it didn't really work out the way I was hoping. So yeah, we're going to go back to where we were. Yeah, I'm not going to use the grocery kiosk. The maximum number of workers being one is a really bad problem because it'll mean that it's unstaffed for large proportions of its time, and it's not even that cheap. It's like 1 ton of steel. In order to make this work, we need to put two, right? So that when one of them is unstaffed, hopefully the other one isn't, and then we'd have to go and buy a small store to make up the other two goods, and that's another 3 tons of steel. So we're talking 5 tons of steel. And now we can just get a small shopping centre for 5.2 tons of steel. So that's what we're doing, I've decided. So yeah, let's chuck that in there. That should give room for a footpath to get in front of it and then loop around the bus stop. Get some residential buildings. I've crunched the numbers. This low quality rural flats, it's the cheapest building per worker. So this is what we're going to build. And we'll just chuck 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to pause 6 of them and only build 3 of them with foreign labour, and then use those 60 people as labour to build the rest. So yeah, that's all good. House of culture, we're not going to bother with an amphitheatre. We can't have temperature sensitive buildings because we've got seasons switched on, so we're going to go for a house of culture, and I believe we can just fit that here, and then we can go and get the smallest school. In fact, let me do that again because I want to point the footpath connection down to connect on this side. That'll work a lot better. We'll go back into the residential areas because we missed one. Again, all of this is outside, so it's not going to work. And then all the indoor stuff is really expensive. There's nothing indoor that is equivalent to these very small buildings. So we just need to go for an indoor pool. There's not really any way around that. It's a little close to the shop, but there's still space for a footpath there, and it's not going to block off any of the connection points, and that'll allow us to get a footpath around the back as well. So all good there. And yeah, back into state infrastructure. I'm going to ignore kindergartens for now. We'll probably need one very quickly once we start getting our people in. Hospital, small clinic again. That's just naturally what we're going to go for. Pretty much any time that's an option. And will it let me do that? No, it won't let me do that. I didn't think it would, but you never know until you try. I do it like that. That works, okay. So that gives us a node so we can get a footpath crossing that road. Yeah, okay, what else? Fire station? I'm going to chuck it here actually. So the good thing about a fire station is you don't need for it to be accessible by all your people, only the people that are going to work there, and that's these people here. Given how minimalist we're working, we might even just leave this on 0 staffing and only staff it up when stuff catches on fire, which is a bit risky, but that's where we are. So we're no orphanage. So universities, usually I would just no question go for a small headquarters of the party because that allows you to unlock distribution offices. Yeah, but by the way we're doing things, the whole point of the minimalism, we're not going to have enough vehicles to fill more than the 5 free distribution offices we already have. So I think I'm going to go for a technical university. It's actually got 2 tons less of steel, more bricks, but I think it'll still be a little bit cheaper. This is going to be very low priority. We don't need this anytime soon. We'll chuck it behind here because I think we can get a footpath up each side of that quite nicely. Justice buildings. I'm going to ignore justice buildings just now. Generally, crimes take a while to like escalate to the point where you need to start having these buildings, and they're all relatively expensive. So last thing, monuments. Now initially I was like, oh, kids playground, that's super cheap. We can build one of them, but then I noticed it doesn't actually affect loyalty. It affects kids' sport enjoyment. That's an easy trap to fall into. So either we want to go for an Eternal Flame obelisk, which is probably my first pick for any game, or we want to go for a Soviet symbol, which is cheaper, but also it's only got a 65 meter radius. I think I want to go for the Eternal Flame one just for that extra radius. It's nearly triple the radius and like half again as effective. So we're putting that here, and then it can connect to the horizontal footpath. There we go. And then we can still get a horizontal footpath past the bus stop below it. And yeah, I think that's all we're gonna do. All the cargo trucks that we're going to be constructing, they're all on auto search. So they will deliver all the materials to here, which is good. That's what I want. The excavator, if there's anything that can work on, it will go and work on that. But the Trabi, our worker supply, will not. That'll only work on stuff that I manually assign to it. And the only thing I'm going to manually assign to it is the small clinic, the shop, and 3 of these. And an electricity supply, which I haven't built yet. Because those are the only things we absolutely need to have before we invite citizens. We'll want to have the school and the House of Culture and the pool and stuff fairly quickly afterwards, but we don't actually need them. Our citizens will be unhappy and poorly educated, but they will keep working, and that's all we need for those to be completed. So yeah, all good. I'm just going to put the electricity in last. I'm just going to put one here actually. It's right next to the import. Maybe here's better, because that'll give like 8 or 9 squares worth of space on that side that we can build stuff in and still have it covered. Yeah, that's probably a good shout. We'll go for the cheapest underground wire, because yeah, 1.3 tons of gravel is meaninglessly small. I'm gonna run the game. I'll put some footpaths in while we're waiting for that to happen. We'll put these ones in high priority. The ones that we actually want to get finished. 7 buildings that we're gonna be using foreign workers on. They're gonna get all the materials done, all the groundworks phases done, and then all the rest of the materials delivered. And only then will I send workers to actually do the work on them, just so that we make sure we're not wasting any work hours at all. And yeah, I'll run the game. I'll sort out the footpaths, and we'll come back and see how things are going. Okay, so now we've been playing for 6 months, and I'm kind of regretting just getting this tiny wee open-hulled vehicle. It's not delivering very much. It's not delivering very quickly. This has still got more than 20 trips to get this shopping centre done. Another 8 or 9 trips to get these ones done, and then the same for the flats. However, the electric substation is just ready, only needs workers, and the wire also only needs workers now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go there and I'm going to say, work on this, and I'm going to do them one at a time so that we never end up with a situation where the crane is at a different building than the workers are. But yeah, well, I'm going to do those one at a time, and I'm going to wait for the shopping centre and the others to get their materials and do those one at a time. And then I'll see you again when the initial buildings we need are completed. Okay, it's winter now. We're still waiting for the shopping centre, but that's the last of the buildings that we need to get done with foreign labour. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with snowplows. I don't think it's worth the cost, given our theming. What we do need though is we need drinking water, and we need sewage removal, and we need whatever the other one was, a garbage truck. That's what we need. Obviously I'm just going to build 1 free technical services and buy the only small garbage truck that we can get, and the cheapest water and sewage truck. So water and sewage we're going to do at the customs office. I don't think it's worth trying to build infrastructure to make our own water or dump our own sewage. The amounts we'll be working with are going to be so low that there's no chance that we're going to spend more on water and sewage than we would on building the buildings to handle water and sewage. So that can wait until we've got profit coming in. Yeah, and then garbage. I guess I just remembered halfway through speaking there. We do have these free dumps. We can build up to 5 of those. So let's just chuck 2 of these down here. And we need 2 because we've got that clinic in it, which counts as a hospital. And hospitals make hazardous waste. So we've got 1 for mixed waste, 1 for hazardous waste, and then we shouldn't be making any of the other types of waste. So if I just do that, it should... Yeah, cool, okay. I guess I'll wait for this one last delivery, and then we'll get the workers assigned to there, and then we'll just wait for that to be finished. Oh, you know what? One thing we're going to need before we can move our people in is obviously heating, right? I guess a small heating plant. It's not super cheap, but we're going to have pay the materials costs anyway, and the workdays costs aren't that big. So yeah, we need to build a small heating plant, and I'm not even going to bother with a pipe to try and get it to there. I'm not even going to bother with putting it where it needs a bus route. It's just going to go behind this fire station. They'll just eat the pollution. It's only 7 tons per year for the little one. I think it's going to be fine. I guess if it's not fine, we're going to find out the hard way. But like, we've got a whole bunch of slack. If we're building it here, this will essentially cover our entire starter town. So yeah, we'll do that. And then this is going to be one of the other high priority ones. I mean, I guess technically we could wait until like June or something to invite people. Yeah, we'll see what happens once the groundworks gets done, and once all the materials get delivered. We'll see what the date's looking like. Maybe we can get away with inviting our citizens with no heating plant and just send them to work there. Let me run the game and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to admit defeat a little bit. This little truck is just not doing the job. Like, we still haven't sent stuff to these flats. We still haven't sent that to the school, to the indoor pool. We haven't sent stuff to the heating plant, and we're like a year and a half in, and this is just entirely the bottleneck. So we're going to be buying another open hulled. I should have gone for a bigger one in the first place. So I think this is even going to save us money. It's that bad that it's going to save us money because our trucks are approaching 10% wear and tear. If we don't get a faster truck for the open hulls, we're going to end up having to spend money on a vehicle repair station before we get any of our own citizens. And like, yeah, that's just not a winning prospect. Obviously, we're not going to go for an even smaller one. I think like we did with the dumpers, the kind of medium-sized 7-ton one, which is reasonably priced, is going to be our go-to here. So we're just going to grab one of them. It's going to stick in there with the excavator, and yeah, you can get your stuff from the customs house. All good, and yeah, we're back to running the game. I should probably explain why I'm even delivering materials to those buildings. Like these ones, we aren't going to build them until later on anyway, so why are we even bothering to send stuff to them right now? And that's because as soon as we invite citizens, things are going to start happening really, really quickly, right? 60 people is not enough to run the shop and the fire station and the clinic and all the leisure buildings and everything, and we can't get away without all the leisure buildings for very long. So we're going to have to immediately start sending workers to build more flats for more workers, and then kind of use that exponential growth to build and staff the various service buildings that they're going to need to be happy. The easiest way to make sure that doesn't go horribly wrong is to deliver all the materials in advance. So that's why I'm doing that, in case you were wondering. Okay, it's now May, and all the stuff we needed was done. All the other stuff has their materials ready to go, so that should be good. I realised I haven't set this up, so I'm just going to do that just now, get my ratios correct, and then we want the cheapest covered hull, which I guess is the B100. And then I think we only have one option for refrigeration. No, we don't. We've got the cheaper one. It took us long enough that we've got one that's less than half price, so we've saved a couple of grand there. Sweet. We'll let those get themselves situated. In fact, no, we'll just point them straight at that. Unload, and that one you can unload for like 50%. Yeah, the other thing we want to do here, this can be like 5. We don't need that many. We're not going to, like, in fact, we can probably even go for like 2 or 3 people in there and that'll be fine. Same here. We do want an ambulance. So what's the cheapest ambulance? And grab one of those. The last thing we need before we invite citizens, the second last thing we need, because we need to do this first. We need to tell this to go to the bus stop. We need the bus stop to only have workers. And the last thing we need, when these 60 people move in, where are they going to work? Apart from the ones that are going to go and work in these service buildings, we want them to start constructing stuff. So, 23. Why 23? Because that's how many people our crane can boost. I don't think we're going to have 23 people to work on this building, and then we'll assign that there so that the crane goes there. And that way, as soon as they start looking for jobs and they can't find them there, they'll walk to these flats and start building them, and then we'll have 80 people. So yeah, I think we're ready to go. Let's do this. So I'm going to pause while I do this. Actually, that's probably a good idea. I want 10 just regular, and then 10 educated, 10 just regular, and then 10 educated, and then this one can just be 20 regular. And that should, if we unpause it and give it a second, that gives us like 38% higher education. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. That'll give us some folk to work in the clinic, and then hopefully we should start to see these flats getting constructed. Yeah, they're all wandering around. I can see a couple of them going there. Two of them. 5 people, 8% of our population, 10% of our population already have kids. They're just popping them right out. So that's going to be awkward. And we've immediately gone into an epidemic, which is also kind of awkward. But there's not really much we can do about that. More people for more work for more flats. Yeah. And I'm just going to rinse repeat until we've got all these 9 done, and then we'll move on to the service buildings at that point. Okay, so yeah, all those are done just now. I'm not going to move people into the last one, just to give us a bit of room for people to move in there. Also, I've been getting a bit ahead of myself, and I keep inviting people before they have any drinking water. So I want to rein myself in a bit there. Let's get this done. We want our construction office to go there, so that the crane goes there, and then the car can go and pick up workers from there. But also, we want to open this up for people to walk to work. And yeah, I'm just going to do that for the same in order: the House of Culture, and then the pool, and then the heating plant, and then the school, and then the fire station, and then that. I haven't decided whether we're going to go straight onto the technical university or whether we're going to consider doing something else before we build that. Okay, yeah, so it looks like our shop does actually need more people. There we go, 5 people. That should do the job. And I guess we should supply some coal to the heating plant. I think we'll do that with a distribution office, because then we can do it at like a 10% one rather than having to fill the whole thing to the maximum. So that means we need a dumper. I don't think we can. Yeah. Where's value? Where's the cheapest one? 3.5 tons for 2.5 grand. That'll do the job. I'm happy enough with that. No problem at all. So, load from the customs house, unload there, 10%. That's fine. And yeah, on to the fire station. So looking at this, so obviously I'm going to buy fire trucks, and I'm obviously going to buy the cheapest fire trucks. That's what I would do in a normal game anyway, to be honest. I am just going to leave this fully staffed, because we do have like 23 people at a time unemployed. Yeah, we can afford the firefighters. Everywhere else, I've been like keeping a very close eye on it and adjusting it. Wow, that's terrible. Maybe I should have invited more higher education people. Despite me just saying that I should have invited more higher education people, I'm not going to immediately go to the technical university. It needs a lot of work days, and a large portion of our workforce are tied up looking after their kids. So we're going to go and get that kindergarten that I said we'd probably need. So we'll just get the smallest one. We absolutely don't need anything bigger than that, at least anytime soon. So yeah, that's going to be the next one after. So the obelisk doesn't actually need a crane. It's weird. Monuments are weird like that. They're the only buildings I've seen that has a mechanism slot during the groundworks phase, but no mechanism slot during the next phase. I'm just going to set that to 5 and let people just slowly work away on that in the background. And this one's going to get actually properly. No, it's not. Don't. Yeah, okay, I just about jumped the gun there because we don't need workers until the excavator's finished doing its job. Yeah, okay, let's do the technical university then. We'll let them work away on that, and then if the kindergarten is ready for workers before the technical university, I'll switch it over, and then, yeah. One thing I've noticed is this small heating plant, there's a bit of a problem because the internal garbage container stand for this building uses large containers instead of the small containers that all the rest of them use, which means that this little orange guy can't empty that. The usual solution to that would be to also have a big garbage container truck to empty this, but that's not what we're going to do. Instead, we're going to go into the waste and we're going to go into the stand for small garbage containers, and we're going to chuck one of those like somewhere where it's in range of as much stuff as possible, but definitely the heating plant. Yeah, right in that corner looks like the best bet because these are super cheap. There's no reason not to do that, and also to save that truck getting backed up all the time. So this is connected to pretty much everything except these 3 buildings. Yeah, we'll build another one out in this direction that covers those 3, and then that'll also cover whatever we build in this space as well. That's a much cheaper way to improve the efficiency of our waste collection apparatus than buying another vehicle would be. Okay, so the technical university just finished like 2 seconds ago, just as the kindergarten started getting its thing. So yeah, we're doing all right for workers, especially once we get those parents into the workforce with that kindergarten. We should be pretty golden, and then we can start thinking about what else can we put those to work for, like where else can we put those to work. And I think at that point it'll be time to think about getting some profitable industries. So yeah, give me a few more minutes. Okay, things are looking good. I took a bit of time to go around and balance the staffing levels in all the buildings. So now I think we want to go on to building our profitable industry and aim for that turning point as soon as we can achieve it. And I was having a little think about what industry should we go for. Like, this island isn't big enough for anything that's going to be highly polluting. So that means we probably want something that we can put in walking range. So that rules out lots of stuff, pretty much everything in these 4 tabs. In my last crack at this, I tried to do a woodcutting post on a sawmill, thinking that they make almost no pollution, they only need a small number of workers, and the buildings themselves are pretty cheap. It sounded like a good idea in my head, and it turned out to be a total disaster, because what I'd forgot about was a woodcutting post, in order to work at full capacity, needs 3 large open hull trucks, and then you need open hull trucks to move all that stuff to the sawmill, and then from the sawmill to the customers to sell it. So it just wasn't going to work. That made me think, right, because if you're playing a normal realistic game, the 4 industries you would generally decide between are fabric factories and clothing factories, food factories and distilleries. And they're all very roughly similar in terms of profitability, and they're all quite similar in terms of the number of workers they employ. Food factory and the distillery, they both need like 42 and 30 tons of crops to work, and they both need like 8 to 13 cubic meters of water every day in order to work. And that's probably not a good idea. They also make quite a lot of pollution, and essentially what that means is we'd need another full-size water truck, or potentially even 2, and then we'd need probably 4 or 5 covered hull trucks by the time we fully staff these up, just to bring in the crops, and then more to take away the food and alcohol. Despite those two usually being a pretty decent option, I'm not going to go with those. And then the same for the fabric, right? It uses less crops, but still quite a lot. But it also uses chemicals and water. So we need trucks for those, and it makes even more environment pollution. And the water that it uses, we would then need to have a sewage truck to take away all that sewage. That's going to pump the price up of that significantly. So what I'm going to go for is a clothing factory. So the actual build cost of this factory is on the higher end in those group of industries, but the pollution is the lowest, and the transport requirements are absolutely rock bottom, right? That's one truck. Even if we staff this up to maximum, we only need one truck. So the startup costs for the clothing factory are deceptively low when you consider the costs of the trucks that you're going to need. So that's what we're going for. Because the pollution is so low, we're going to put it in range here. So up here is not in range of all the houses, but it is in range of the bus stop, so that'll allow everyone to work there, because even if they have to walk to the bus stop first, they can get here from the bus stop. And yeah, just like that, easy as that. Once it's ready for workers, I'll do the same thing I've been doing to get that fully constructed, and then I guess we can just chuck another covered hull into here. The one for the shopping centre just isn't going to cut it for this because it's so tiny. It's just about keeping up with the shopping centre, but it won't be able to keep up with the industry as well. So having a second covered hull in this one will solve that problem, and it'll also allow it to mean we can make it so it only exports when this gets to like 50% full, and then this one can pick it up when it's 0% and take it to the shopping centre, and that way we'll be using clothes for our own uses first and then exporting only the excess. Okay, our clothing factory is finished. I've zeroed out the workers for now just because we haven't imported any fabric yet. So all we need to do is grab a covered hull, an IFA W50. That would do the job, right? That's cheap for what you get. 2.5 tons of clothes, 3.5 tons of fabric, that's more than a day's worth of production per truckload. So that goes there, and once this truck's made a trip and we can put some workers in here, that's pretty much going to be our turning point, right? We'll have to wait a month or so for enough production to happen for our exports to start. Maybe we can stay under 250 grand spent. I would really like it if that was the case, but I'm not sure. We might have to buy like a load of coal or something before we can get our exports, or this is probably going to have to take a couple of trips and it's going to spend enough to take us under that. Yeah, it's going to go back and buy another one. Yeah, so we're over 250 grand spent. Crank that up. I'm going to crank that right up all the way, in fact, because we might as well. There's nothing else for them to work on, and yeah, clothes are being made. So I'm going to continue running the game. I'm going to try and get past the end of winter. That was a really unfortunate timing until we start seeing that profit come through into our monthly summary and just like really prove out that that's us on an upward trend instead of on a downward trend. And then we'll take a look at the actual economy tab and see where was our lowest point. Okay, so I guess it's only been a couple of months. Our money is kind of going up. The last few months we've just broken even, which is better than it was before, but now it looks like we're really starting to get into the profit. At the moment, we're only just kind of breaking even. We're just covering our costs. So I don't think we can call that a proper turning point yet. I think we need to increase our profits a bit, and I think the way to do that is to build more flats and staff up this clothing factory. So I'm going to build a few more of these. I'm also getting some fairly hefty happiness problems, and from what I can tell, it's because the water truck and the sewage truck just can't keep up. Now that's probably just a winter problem because there's no snowplows, but substations are so cheap that I might as well just build one of each of those. It'll just dramatically increase the ability of those trucks to keep up. Getting these in will hopefully improve the happiness and in turn improve the productivity, which in turn improves the profits. And now that it's not winter anymore. We should hopefully be spending less on coal. Not that we were spending that much on coal, but yeah, most of our imports are actually the fabric for the clothing factory. And I guess we're using up enough clothes that's what I'm going to do now, and then we'll see if we can get this number moving up instead of kind of holding steady between 145 and 150. Okay, so yeah, I've been building a couple more flats. Yeah, I made a bit of a mistake and I went a bit too crazy building loads and loads of flats, and the first couple are built. The second one is finished building, but no one's moved in because we didn't have enough people waiting for their own flats. We're still struggling a little bit with happiness, but it's not dropping anymore. I think there was a combination of sewage backing up in a bunch of buildings, water not getting delivered because our very limited logistics on that, and then also the low quality of the flats is only because it's only like 55 by default, and then that decreases as the wear and tear goes up. And then again, all those, there was like 17, 21 plus people without their own flats who would have been very unhappy. And that's a significant percentage of our population at this point. Building this and building the sewage tank and the water substation should have solved most of those problems. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about the flat quality. Yeah, but the only problems they've got are the ones that we're not planning to solve with the pub or the church. And then the kindergarten, I guess that can be, we can get a few more people in there. That's not something that should make them unhappy though, that should just make them not productive. Because I tried to build too many of these at the same time, I did go down to like 1,138,000 ish. I realised in the meantime there isn't actually a graph that shows you what your bank balance has been over time, so I don't necessarily have the specific number that I went down to. I didn't see it go below 1,138,000, so that's the number I'm going to use going forward unless I really mess up and send it even lower. But yeah, we've had a couple of profitable months and then a couple of slightly lossy months, but we're holding roughly steady in the 140s. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to buy any more people. I don't think that's a good financial decision. So I'm going to maybe run to the end of 1963, letting our population naturally expand and unpausing. This is as far down as our money's going to go, because now we've got all the materials for all of these. As our population grows, I'll start unpausing these and expanding our population, and that should increase our profits faster than the costs of maintaining our population. And yeah, I'll see you at the end of the year and we'll have a little review. Okay, so yeah, it's the middle of October. We are more than 10 grand up from the lowest that we ever went down to. We are making consistent profits, not every month. So any month where the fuel truck goes to get fuel for the fuel station is a month where we don't make a profit, but all the other months we pretty much managed to make somewhere between 2 and 4 grand. I think we can call this a success. We've now filled up, our population's still growing, our happiness is looking pretty grim, but it's not hurting us. Our population dips every now and again, but it's still climbing very consistently, and that's what we need, right? More people for the clothing factory, more profits from there will offset our costs, and it's just all the way uphill from there. And yeah, our population is growing. I think we might need to, we need to build another one now, but I've got plenty lined up that we can do that, right? So all I need to do is just set it to 20 people allowed to work on it, assign that there so the crane comes along, and that one person, the only person in the Republic without their own flat, will get this whole building to themselves until someone else has a kid grow up. So yeah, in theory, I could keep playing and just double check, because we want to make sure that we make enough money by the time we need a repair shop. The repair shop's not super expensive, so I'm not too worried about that. The materials to fill it up would also be a bit expensive, so it might be a bit hairy to do that. And then the other thing I was thinking about is we don't have any justice buildings, and we've got the occasional crime kicking about, two crimes in the pool, that's a potential kind of failure point, right? Because the small police station isn't super expensive. The small courthouse is fairly expensive. Like, between those three buildings, the prison as well, you're probably talking 20 grand's worth of materials, which should be fairly doable, right? If we're making 3 grand, 2 or 3 grand per month, that's what, less than a year to build those. We're only in 1963. The crime ramp up shouldn't really start kicking in hard until 1964 or 1965. I don't see a fundamental problem with keeping up with those. Obviously, if we get an earthquake and one of our important buildings burns down, then maybe that might turn into a big problem. But from a fundamental, like, what's the minimum that you can possibly get away with in ideal circumstances? The minimum I got to was 1,138,000 and something rubles. So that's 262 grand essentially. If our starting money had been 262 grand, we would have spent almost all of it but not run out of money. And by now we would be back up to like 10 grand again, still having not run out of money while making profits every month. Well, most months, enough to cover the lossy months. I'm going to call that a win. I'm gonna keep the save game. If anyone's really curious, yeah, I'm not gonna close any doors. I will say that this is a really uncomfortable way to play, right? I've been sitting here for probably 4 or 5 hours just watching things happen, using the secret shortcut key that speeds things up like that. There's nothing really been going on, and it's very micromanaging. I definitely would say that this is the sort of thing that you don't necessarily want to try and play for yourself if you're not the type of person who really enjoys that min-maxing type thing. But yeah, that wasn't what I was trying to achieve here. I was trying to get a minimum spend figure, and I feel like I've achieved that. I'm interested to hear what you think. Let me know if you can think of anything I should have done differently or could have done differently that might have made that turning point a bit higher. If anyone else wants to have a go and tell me what they managed, what their high score was, I absolutely will put my ego on the line for that. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.